Because, you know, I mean, look at Jocelyn. He automatically shifted into trying to tell and teach Robin. It's completely inappropriate. But yet he went there. And it's not any fault of his. You know, Robin does this. She does prompt us a little bit. Yeah. It's not that he was in that mode necessarily. It just happened organically. And it's why I mention it. It's just useful. So just interesting for her to shift.
Yeah, that telling. Oops.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, there's something that Robin does that kind of prompts that cues it.
Explain that a little bit more about what is she? I don't know if I'm quite on.
She has a vibe, an air, a mood, a questioning, an openness, a willing. Oh, I accidentally clicked on my unmute. A willingness to, or a desire to know stuff. To say, I've got a problem, I need a solution, and this prompts and cues others to automatically try and give her that solution. And this is what happened with Jocelyn. It was utterly inappropriate if you ask me, but he completely shifted into suddenly being a teacher here. It's like, come on, you know. I let it run because, you know, I'll bring it up with him. And I also, you know, in the recording, it merged together. So they are both going to get to see this if they watch the recording. But still, you know, it's on both sides. He didn't do it intentionally. Yes, it's inappropriate, and you know, I want to bring it to his attention that he doesn't do so intentionally. But the same thing with Robin, that she is stimulating this. Now we have practiced this not to get into telling mode, not to get into teaching mode, but she does have something in her that says, I'm looking for an answer outside of myself, rather than saying, you know, I'm thinking about this and here's my solutions. This is what I'm thinking, you know, I'm not sure. Let me get some feedback. Let me hear what you think. Am I missing something? Is there extra perspective, etc., etc.? Very different way of coming at stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Let me write this down. Yeah. And again, the only thing he could have used was the word share instead of tell.
Right. But it's the mindset.
Yeah, yeah.
And the underlying attitude behind it, that he was giving solutions, you know, as opposed to saying maybe this could work, possibly this, you know, how about this, have you thought of this, whatever. Still, he was in the mindset of not sharing his experiences but trying to provide her with solutions for hers. He went there immediately, right away. I mean, anybody looking at that from the outside would immediately assume that, you know, he's employed to be a facilitator or a teacher who doesn't know what the situation is, right? You know, if somebody had just logged into Zoom, immediately they would assume that he's part of the teaching establishment here, and that we do teaching in that way too. Yeah. But it's you know, I've noticed this with Robin when others have been on, and with us too. I have to be really careful to not get into this. It's tricky because she does cue it. She does want this kind of looking for a solution in a way.
My problem for today. This is what has happened. Instead of just say, let me talk about it. And through that talking, she will figure it out. Yeah. No, I hear you loud and clear now. She does have a tendency. Oh, you know, I'm having trouble working through this, like asking, help me.
If we abstract it, we could say Robin is saying, I'm stuck.
Yes. Yes.
That's it. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. That's it. You know, so, and this is, but again, it's always useful to her, and we go over the tools, and so we say, okay, and so I really try and make it work, and she does shift, but still it's in her mind there. So it's this idea that when she doesn't know what to do, that she cannot figure out for herself what to do, that she needs to get the answer from outside when she's stuck. And so this is where the shift that I'm looking now to propagate. She has the tools. She just needs to get a little bit more self-confident and self-trusting about using those tools.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't inappropriate. I mean, for me to say when she said about this letter and she doesn't know what that's when I just said baby steps. Don't take that overwhelmed. Just start writing things down and then put it together.
Right.
Edit
And
ugly.
you fall into that trap a little bit. Like you hear how you say it. She prompts you to give her a solution
Yeah.
rather than saying,
Mhm.
Robin, what if you use the tools of overwhelm that we've discussed? What were those again? Stuff like that, to try and get her to get out of
Gotcha.
it. It's
Gotcha.
difficult, Sue.
Okay.
It's very difficult. We have to be hyper attentive. I find myself telling her sometimes too, and I'm like, hey, whoa. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
It's
Yeah. So instead of saying the actual tool for overwhelm, which she knows very
yeah.
well, I should have
Excellent.
just said, what is the tool for
Excellent.
being overwhelmed? Go start there.
Right, right. So,
Baby step.
yeah. So our intent then shifts to saying, okay, I know what the solution is. How can I get Robin to come to the solution of her own accord
Got you.
rather than me giving it to her? And this is a habit we want to have in everything we do. And it's a big shift. I find myself constantly practicing this shift. It's so tempting to just give the solution.
Yeah. I
It's
hear
just
you.
so tempting. But
Yeah.
again, all it is just to shift from making a statement to asking a question.
Hmm.
I mean, we can make a statement that's sharing, but it's not telling, but it's still really providing the solution,
Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha.
which is still I'm still perpetuating that habit. So it's a big
Mhm.
deal. What do you think, Beena? Sweetness?
Yes, I'm just trying to recall all my sharing with her.
No,
Yeah.
talk about cueing your personal mistakes possibly. Yeah.
I know
No,
it's hard. It's hard. It's
it's
really,
hard.
really
It's
hard.
hard.
But this is the gift of Robin for us.
Yeah.
Robin does this so, let's say, almost expertly, if you want to do. Like if somebody was like, doing this deliberately, wow, this would be very skillful, because it's not intentional. She's not looking. She's not in a self-pity mode. She's genuinely in a spot where she's stuck and doesn't know. But she's not really stuck. She's just caught up in that idea and the habit of stuckness, and also her self-conception is creating this idea about herself. So it prompts us and stimulates us, and us being appropriate beings, we respond appropriately in the usual limited context of appropriate response. But that's the key, though. And this is a profound lesson for us, that our appropriateness can, in essence, be somewhat manipulated. It wasn't deliberate here, but nonetheless, our appropriateness is being subverted. Yeah, Beena? I find myself doing it way too often, that I want to say, wow,
I, okay,
I'm not
I'm
telling you. Yeah.
no, I don't think so that you were doing that with Robin or anyone. I don't think so that it was
Oh,
happening.
well,
I
well,
don't.
I
Me,
mean,
I'm
Beena, I don't tell, but I share, and my sharing provides a solution or a remedy, as
Mhm.
opposed to asking the question. That's what I mean, Beena.
So we should ask more
so.
questions.
But when you provide the solution, hmm?
Oh, I'll have to go through video to look at specific situations.
I think she's asking, when do you provide a solution?
Oh, all right. So almost never really. Sorry, I misunderstood your question. Um, Almost never really, unless it's unavoidable. So okay, we ask a question that provides a framework, and now it's a reminder, what are your tools? And I say, I don't know. And then I say, are these your tools? And I give multiple choice. So then maybe they say, and we get stuck. So likewise, I can share my solution as a possible choice, and now they still choose the solution rather
Okay.
than
Okay. For
just.
my understanding, let's be specific because I really want to understand that. yeah, I understand about queuing, how we queue other people and how people respond accordingly. Because this has happened with us also. Like sometimes people queue us and we respond. Sometimes we queue other people. So it is something, okay, I understand. But in Robin's case or in anyone's case, the only thing I don't want to do that, but I have to do because I really, I'm not able to right now to make it more general. Because I
Mhm.
have to use my example, which I don't like. I don't want to use my example because first thing, it is personal. I don't want to discuss my personals with everyone. It is just my way of being, not like being arrogant or something. I don't want to. Second thing is when we make it personal, people start relating and comparing that, which is not appropriate. It has to be more general, and anyone who wants to listen or who wants to have some moreness, that they need to be able to exactly, we can say that, extract the value out of it without being any specific, without being in a position where they start comparing that, okay, she's doing that, I'm doing that, she was doing this and I was not doing that. So that kind of thing I don't want. But
Mhm,
this is struggle because I am not right now able to. This is, I'm working on that, but I'm able to.
mhm,
That when I share something, I right now I share about what I was doing, what I am doing, what I have been doing in my past.
mhm.
So I don't know that about giving the specific solutions because this is exactly what I was doing, and I just shared that. Okay, this is for me. I was doing that.
No,
If it is,
I,
yeah,
yeah, I think this case, when you share that way, I think it's fantastically appropriate.
Yeah.
Because here's what happens, Bina. You aren't saying this is a solution for you. You are saying here's something similar and here's what I did. You share your process. Now, it's not the solution, the situation isn't exactly the same. You are sharing the abstract process. And now from the outside, I could say, oh, let's see, that's how Bina did resolve the problem. She used this technique, she used that technique. Maybe that'll work for me, maybe not. They still have to choose to adopt it. This is to me the magic of sharing. That's what we are really talking
Right.
about sharing. You aren't sharing the specific solution, you are sharing the process, which is a whole different logic.
Correct.
Whole different logic. And
Correct.
it may be more or less similar because it has to have some contextual relevance and pertinence. Otherwise, it's not there. But it's never exactly the
yeah,
same. It's usually substantial difference. And that's magic what you do, Bean. It's always valuable what you do. Very much so.
able, I really able to not use any specific details. I really want to be able.
Exactly.
I don't
Exactly.
need to actually share
Exactly.
any example of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And again, I think if Jocelyn would have just said, um, let me share what happened to me, it would have taken on a whole new thing.
Right.
I know for me in in what I could have even corrected even better now that I look back on it and hear that conversation. Even instead of saying, uh, so what are the tools for being overwhelmed? What's
Exactly.
Oh, it's frozen.
well
Yeah.
to say to her, so what is the actual problem that you are experiencing or struggling with in writing this letter? And let her come to, I'm overwhelmed. I don't even
Right.
know where to start.
Wow.
Then I could have said, so what is the tool? What are the details? What's the solution for when you're overwhelmed? She has that tool. You know what I'm saying? So I could have
And
not even said, you're overwhelmed. What are the tools? I should have asked her first, what is the problem? And even let her say, I'm overwhelmed. Then ask the next question. So what do you do when you're overwhelmed?
yeah.
Correct?
So exactly, exactly. Look at the intent here. When we zoom out all the way, we want to have the tool that we can apply in all situations rather than the specific solution. Look
Right.
at Jaslar's intent.
Mhm.
His intent clearly was to teach and to tell and to provide solution and say, here's the way to do it. Yes?
Yes, exactly.
Very clear intent, right? So now when we look at my intent when I'm in that situation, I say, is my intent to provide her with solution, or is my intent to facilitate and assist her to figure it out,
out.
for her to have the tools. Now, she may not have the tools, and I may need to teach the tool. Yes, this I'm entitled to do. Yeah.
Right.
This is my job sometimes. You don't know that this tool even exists. Fine, I come and I show you the tool in
Right.
the specific situation, but I'm showing you the tool. It's up to you to use it. Yes, in this situation. So this is it. So our intent always is look at the consequence of what I'm doing. Will this enable her to solve the problem next time? You know, if it's more or less similar, or
Or
am I just giving her the solution specifically? This is the
or
problem.
is it right? She's gonna
Exactly.
write to us and say, I'm really blah 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 blah, and then expect
Exactly.
that response.
Exactly. So that's why for me, I shifted it into saying, you're afraid of confrontation. What's the abstract here? Are you obligated or not? You know, and when, you know, now choice, do you have choice here? Well, all confrontation comes down to where you feel you're under pressure and you don't have choice, and it's an unpleasant choice, etc. So when you just make that shift, that's the tool of shifting, the tool of focusing on choice. So focus on the usage of the tools and, you know, how to use them rather than the specific solution. It's amazing. It's amazing.
It is so, and that is again, that is a huge habit shift, because we are, especially as a 20 years of practicing as a therapist, they expect those answers.
Yes, they want the detailed solution. They want the specific answer. Yeah, they don't want to learn how to solve the math problem to learn the actual math of it. They want the answer of the problem. Yeah, yeah.
I think I have to have that stamped on my forehead or somewhere clear. Let them figure it out, or ask questions or something,
Yes, yes. And it's not just let them figure it out. It is
It's
focus on the tools of
the
how to
tool.
figure
Yeah,
it out.
ask questions to
Yeah.
connect
To
to the tools
right, to
needed.
facilitate the process.
There you go. Let me write.
Yeah, not to arrive at an answer, but to facilitate the process. That's what we do. We facilitate the process. Sometimes we introduce tools. Sometimes we remind about tools because, yes, it's a new stuff and you may forget. But remind, you know, like with a takeaway, remind, you know, with a habit shifting, we remind, you know, all the stuff.
There you go.
It's not easy. It's not easy, Sue. We are so entrenched in our habits. And essentially, we are going against one of our deepest instincts, which
Yeah.
is help.
Help. Yes.
Yeah. And that's difficult. That's really, really difficult. I really struggle with this. So it's not about not helping. It is about helping appropriately. Yeah. So am I helping long term as opposed to short term? That's
Yeah.
it. So, you know, that's what I really got to keep in mind. Am I truly helping? Am I truly helping? Am I truly helping? Yes, it helps me to give them the answer in the short term. You know, yeah. And you know, sometimes let's say in a Zoom session where there's limited time, somebody brings up something right before the end. Okay, I'm going to give you the band-aid, but I'm going to come back to it next week and say, look, there was a solution, but now next time, what would you do? How are the tools? Because between now and next time, they're going to be suffering with us. So at least I give them something to tide them over until next time. You know, it's like a doctor giving you a painkiller until they can come back next time and treat the disease. So it's not always that we don't give that band-aid. Sometimes the band-aid is useful. All right. But as long as you're still going to later come back and treat the underlying disease. So it's not always inappropriate, you know. We just
Mhm.
look at the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a appropriate time or a situation.
Contextual usage.
Contextual.
Exactly.
Crazy. Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's very
That
cool.
was
Very
nice.
cool.
That was very nice that Jocelyn opened up like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Again, you know, he came an hour later because on European time, that was the start of his session. Now he's been sort of, you know, wanting hour-long sessions, but then he stays for 2 hours anyway. So he didn't quite realize that, you know, it was the start of Robin's session, not the finishing hour of his session. It's okay. I left it because I thought it was
Yeah. That's right. It
useful
was
and
good.
instructional for both Robin and
Absolutely.
Josla to, you know,
Absolutely.
when I shift the perspective on it, you know, and I'll mention it to, you know, re-look at this and look at the video because it's now all conjoined, you know, it's all
Yeah.
one big long video. So, okay, it's just the way it went, you know.
I think, is it the 27th? So next week, we're back on that
Right.
other
29th.
Yeah, they go to daylight savings next week.
correct. On the 29th, he said, yeah, or
27th,
somebody said,
29th, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Anyway, so next week, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's okay. I was glad he had some overlap to see a little bit differently, and also to see his tendency to shift into teaching mode.
Mhm.
I mean, it's amazing. I've seen this so many times. What he was saying to Robin, just listen a little bit deeper. He's saying, I haven't resolved this issue. I'm struggling with it, but he's trying to tell her how to solve it.
Mhm. Mhm.
He
It sounds
doesn't
like
have
he's
peace with
got
the
a
issue,
little more peace. He said it's 10 years.
but he's
Uh,
still not. I mean, if you listen a little deeper, he says he's still not fully resolved it. He's still got some struggles with it.
mhm.
Yeah. He's been struggling with 10 years and he's still not fully resolved. Yes, it's better, but still not fully resolved.
Mhm.
I see this very often with coaches that they dealing with stuff but they think because they dealing with it and struggling with it, this entitles them to teach about it.
Mhm. Did
Fascinating.
he evidently had a very close relationship with his father? I don't.
Yeah, no, not really. Not from what I can understand, that it's not close the way Beena is close with her family, and I mean, I know people are even closer, not the way like say Erica and Kay. That's a real close relationship to me.
Mhm.
So no, I didn't get that idea. Did you, Beena?
I heard him say something about being with him all the time.
Yeah, but he was kind of looking after him a bit more towards the end,
Oh.
but also the father wasn't there and he left. I don't know. It's a mess. I don't know all the things in here still. Beena, what do you feel, that he was really close to the father? Wait, Beena. Oh, maybe Venus just away. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's still confusing, and I when things don't come out clearly like that, I just leave it. I'm just focusing on the tools, on shifting, on the idea. I mean, there's a deeper belief that he should be a bit traumatized or upset by this.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
if you listen to what he's saying, and yes, I know, I accept I'm going to have this for the rest of my life. Why? It's not it's not even usual or regular to have a deep sadness or stress or something that you know causes you to cry about it. It's a little unusual. Anyway,
I mean, somebody will always be there in your heart. And yes, things will remind you, make you a little sad or something because it's a memory of them. But
but even that's not necessarily normal. I know people that, for people who've transitioned, when they remember them, their faces light up with joy. Oh, man, it was such a thrill. They were such a delight. And man, they were so cool and we used to have such fun. And then they shared good memories of it. And there's absolutely no hint of sadness whatsoever. So,
so you're saying it's no problem to remember, but you remember them from a positive standpoint, not the sadness and misery or grief that's associated with it.
one of the lessons I learned from the Merry Widows. I mean, one of them was married again, and she would talk about her husband. Let's say whatever his name was, Tom. And a new husband is sitting there, and somebody says something. Say, yeah, Tom was really into that. Yeah, he used to love football, and he would always go on, and it was so funny. And and she would tell a story about Tom, and just remember him, and everybody sharing in the joy of her memory of Tom, even if they didn't know Tom, new husband included.
Mm-hmm.
There
Mm-hmm.
was absolutely no problem. There was no hint of any negativity at all. It was just something that was positive then, in the same way as we might remember bell bottoms. It was something that was then, that was fun then.
Yeah.
That was then. That was it. Life changed. Move on. I got a new husband. The old one died. That's it.
If I understand it correctly, that okay, sadness, grief, happiness, whatever it has to be deliberate.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a
and we have
learned
that,
behavior. Exactly.
and then we have to understand that why we are feeling so because that question come because he said that Jocelyn, he was saying that, oh, it is okay if I'm feeling sad, I'm sad, and it is for him, this is how to live simply.
It's a should. Yeah.
But which is okay, it can be if you are really simple, but the things are not really simple
Exactly.
mostly in many cases, things are not that simple. If I, again, well, as I shared before, when he was saying that if I'm feeling really sad about someone, about the transition, I need to understand that why I'm feeling sad. Am I feeling sad about that? Just I will not have their physical company anymore around me, or am I feeling that I did something wrong, or maybe if I did not did something wrong, but okay, I didn't do that whatever I supposed to do. That might be also. So instead of just going there blindly, that oh, it is a grief, it's a sadness, oh, I'm just doing that. I need to understand. That's how we learn. There's no other way.
Exactly.
I don't know any other way to learn things, learn from things.
Yeah.
And again, he mentioned about the relationships, and he's saying that oh, I will do that. This is his way, and of course, must be appropriate for him.
Exactly.
But is this the only way to fall into the relationship? This is what trust is? I don't
Exactly.
think so. Not for me.
Nope, nope, nope. Beena, share with us about your stepfather. Anything. First thing that comes into your mind when you think of your stepfather right
He
now.
always smile. He always smile. He always
You
smile.
see, I mean, every time for me, Beena, pretty much after the first week or so, when you started sharing about your stepfather, and I've heard way more in the last since your stepfather transition than I ever heard about him before, right? And
Yes.
every time you share, it's beautiful, it's positive, it's joyful. It's a mourners look like when the Shere Khan came. Bina knows somebody called Shere Khan.
Yeah.
She actually knows somebody called Shere Khan. I love
Come on.
this. And I just love it. It's so fantastic. Anyway, so but you were sharing, and in the okay, Shere Khan was, he's found out he's upset. Anyway, but still, when you shared, whenever you mention your stepfather, you always mention with joy and love, and the memory always adds to you, and heightens your life because it's a joyful, positive memory. How can it be any other way? It
It,
can't
it's
be. He was a
it's a
magic person.
it's a kind of like oxymoron because I feel that joy because when I remember his smile, it is a joyful experience because he has such an amazing smile and very very powerful
Exactly.
smile. But
Exactly.
I miss that. I miss that. And
Exactly. And to think sadly, to be in sadness, wouldn't that be kind of dishonoring him in a way?
no, but
To
still,
remember him with joy and love, isn't that an honoring, a celebration of who he was?
no,
It's
but
the only appropriate thing, really, right?
no, but there is a nuance here. This is what I'm saying that yes, it's an oxymoron feeling because I do celebrate his way of being. Of course, he was an amazing person, but I still feel sad. I still right now I have tears in my eyes because I miss that. So it's not a problem to have that sadness because this is something I'm going through. It's not easy for me. It doesn't mean that I have to be sad all the time whenever I
Exactly.
think about him. So yes, I think that this is what Shosna was trying to say. That just accept it. I'm accepting it because I'm missing. I know that why I'm feeling sad because he is not right here with me anymore. So okay, this is the sadness part. But I still, whenever I remember him, I have a lot of things to think positively about. That he was such an amazing
Exactly.
person. And
Exactly.
yes, and the smile, of course, remind me of his smile. And oh, just 2 days before, he was smiling like nothing happened in this world. Wow.
Aw. Aw.
You got to say, you really got to, interact with him and beautifully, and he really knew how much you loved him. Yes, Bina?
Yeah.
I was fully aware of that. Well, it's magical. It's very magical. Now, the other thing is, as we go further and as we go, we've already started shifting perspectives on transition. And that can go more and more. For instance, when we sing this idea of lost, we didn't lose anybody, right? They're still with us. That's the first shift. Secondly, we say, wow, you know what? If I think in terms of how lucky I was to know them, rather how unlucky I was to supposedly lose them. Were
Of
you
course.
guaranteed any time with your stepfather? No. Whatever you got was a profound magical gift. So I'm saying, wow, I got years instead of a few seconds. Wow, oh, I want to celebrate that I got to know this person really well and I had so much time with them. What a blessing, what a gift. I was promised nothing. I was guaranteed nothing. Whatever I get is a magical gift. When I shift this perspective, it all changes.
This is
It all
this is the same perspective I shifted when someone just predicted that you are going to die soon, and I was like, oh my god, this is the end of the world. And then I, after spending 2 years and wasting my time and ruining everything, and then I realized that, okay, so Beena, you got this. You are the only one who have a guarantee to live that much years now. So okay, now I'm going to enjoy my life. And that was the shift. It just happened. I don't know from where. Of course, something which might be in my subconscious, but I don't know from where I got this. And I said, okay, now, and everything shifts for me. I was the same person. I had the same prediction for me that I will die soon, but the perspective shift actually leveraged me big time, big time, and I started actually living life. I was enjoying that after. I think I shared with you, Sue.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the same person, same prediction is still there, but the perspective shift actually shift everything for me. First, before I was just grieving, I was like, okay, what's the point to study? What's the point to do anything in the world? I have to die soon. Okay, no problem. Then I'm going to do nothing, and everybody is living their life, and I'm going to die soon. Oh, no. And I was just in grief. It was a severe depression kind of a thing for me, and I was not able to share with anyone because my family would be like in more trouble because of me, and I don't want that. So I didn't share with anyone, and I was like, okay, and I was struggling through. Then I don't know, something happened, and I got that idea that, oh, nobody has a guarantee, but at least that astrologer was giving me that promise, was giving me the guarantee to live so many years from now. So let's enjoy, Beena.
amazing.
Yeah,
Not amazing.
absolutely. And it was interesting too. In the Jocelyn's mentioned that specifically there's only 4 people left in his life:
Yeah.
grandmother, the aunt, his mother, and him. So he's become really the patriarch of the family in so many ways. But I wonder if, like what you and Beena are talking about, is that if he would shift, instead of, oh my God, there's only 4 of us left, to enjoy all
Yeah.
4 of them.
I've got 3 more than nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And even if I am alone, that doesn't mean that I can't be happy. Hey, I'm alive.
Mhm.
I'm not dead. Whatever. There's always a way to perspective shift. Always, always. This is the magic of unrelenting positivity. It's not unrelenting cheerfulness.
Right.
Unrelenting positivity, it means that we find a way to shift to extracting value and usefulness.
And I think that this is the very obvious. Okay, for me, my as per my understanding, for me, that being just 4 people in the family, and he is the one who is kind of responsible because her mother, her aunt, everyone. So this this is a position where you have to be responsible, have to take care of not only yourself and of course for others. So this is the time to be more thorough, and universe is actually showing you every single sign about that now this is the time to get serious. Yes, simple is beautiful and easy, but not always. Sometimes in a position you have to be really thorough and discerning about that, and this is, I think this is the ultimate sign. No authority on him anymore. He's the one.
He's the
He has to make decision. He has to take actions. He has to be responsible. So now a universe is actually putting him in that position where he needs to be thorough. Needs to
There
be.
you go. Awful truths again, you see. I mean, he traveled all around the world and essentially running away from problems. So
Mm. Wow.
responsibility. You don't want to, but this
It
is
is
life.
coming. Because
This is it. So when we look at the source of the source of the problem is this, independence of being. When we have independence of being, all of these things go away. I don't care if I'm alone or not. I don't care if I'm responsible or not. I'm okay with myself. I can be who I am. Whatever I have to do, I do. It's not a problem. Essentially, things don't become a problem for us because we have command of ourselves. We can do as appropriate. We can do as necessary. We can adapt, shift, and be flexible. Because why? We are complete within ourselves.
Yeah, and I guess to be in complete
Independence of being.
independence of self and be
Mm.
complete within ourselves, it's letting go of those, is it, well, I shouldn't say obligations, letting go of, yeah, I guess it would be. I mean, but it's like a slippery slope there.
Yeah.
He needs to evidently, in Jocelyn's case, to be aware of how his mother is, how his grandmother is, and how his aunt is.
Bye.
But you
But
can't.
make peace with the fact that it's a choice.
Mm,
There's nothing, absolutely nothing in the world that says you have to be responsible for your parents. That's your choice.
yeah. Uh,
Your kids. I could make an argument that you're responsible for your kids because you chose to bring them into the world.
yeah.
But, theoretically, you could be responsible for them for the rest of your lives because you chose to bring them. But even that starts to get a little bit thin. At
God.
some point, they say, well, I'm independent now. Leave me alone. You're not responsible for anymore. Even if they don't say it directly, they might imply it. But if they don't, like if your child is somewhat dependent on you, they challenged or whatever, well, then you have that responsibility, yes. Then somebody else could argue, well, if you're fully responsible for them, could you now, like the Romans say, could you now kill your children if you chose to, because they totally your choice to bring them there. That was their law. You could kill your children if you wanted to. I'm just saying, so it gets complicated. But all right, when we just say, okay, I'm responsible for my children. Once they get old enough to take care of themselves, I no longer have any responsibilities. And so likewise, I don't necessarily have to be responsible for my parents. It's a choice. I don't have to be. And the key here is to make peace with your choices when it comes to effort and reward. Know why you choose and make peace with that. I choose to be responsible.
Mhm.
Not I am responsible. That's a big difference. I choose to be responsible. I may or may not be responsible. This is usually debatable, but I choose to be. When I choose, it shifts my whole deal. And if you're at peace with your choices, when you choose impeccably, of course, which is what impeccability is all about, best use of energy. When the moment we say best, it implies choice, right? So really, impeccability is about choosing how to use your energy.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's it. But be at peace with your choices. It's when we are not at peace with our choices. That's where the trouble comes. Taken to the ultimate, we live in a world in which we know people are going to be dying on us. If you're not prepared for it, then you choose to live knowing it's going to happen. Stop complaining when it happens. Or don't live in this world then. That's it. Nobody's forcing you to be here, right?
Mhm. Mm.
Again, it's making peace with inevitability. To not to do so is simply a poor use of our energy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
If I don't want to be sad, find a way not to be sad. Doesn't mean that I have to ignore it or suppress it. No, I can perspective shift. This is the magic of our tools. And then when we really, really perspective shift and we go to the ultimate overall perspective, We see, the universe is trying to get me to understand and be appropriate and to be able to deal with anything, to have that ability to be fluid and flexible and adaptable. Well, death is just an absolute part of life. How is it that I don't respond to this in the most appropriate possible way, which is at the end with joy and with happiness? I had the magic gift of knowing this person. uh, if they weren't in my life, in other words, to avoid death, I'd have to say, well, I have to not have them in my life. All right, if that's what you prefer. See, choices. If you don't want to experience death, go and live in a cave. Don't meet anybody, don't have any friends. You can avoid being sad about death.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, but if you shift it to say, wow, yes, I want to experience people, and furthermore, make the effort to maximize your enjoyment of people when you have the opportunity. One thing that I don't ever want to be said to me of me is that I did not avail myself of the gifts when they were in my life. Yes, I'm going to suck all the magic and joy that I can possibly get out of the circumstance while it's here. So, when time death comes, I say, man, I got the most out of this. I enjoyed every minute. I celebrated this person every moment that I knew them. And I do, because why not? It's always short term. We don't know any time somebody could die. Any single time, right, Beena? If you learned one thing in the recent things, that it can come suddenly, just like that, and not being prepared from it, this is a really something that you do not wish to repeat. Yes, Beena?
Yes.
Mhm.
So be prepared. Do everything you can. Be impeccable, in other words, with your dealings with people. So should they die in the very next second, you're okay with it. I did the most. I maximized. I made best use of my energy, and I can now celebrate them because I celebrated them while they were here. I have absolutely not one single regret. Nada. Zero. Nothing. How magic is that? I enjoyed the gift. For as long as it lasted, I enjoyed the gift. So I'm not saying this for you specifically, Sue. I'm just sharing it in the context of
Yeah.
the overallness, in terms of transition counseling. This is usually what I would share, and I really do want to make that course. It's a very potent course.
Oh, I think this is, I absolutely want to
Yeah,
kind of be in on
I
that
do
when you
like.
guys
I
are
do like.
working on
I'm,
that.
I'm, I'm working. I'm on the second last module of anxiety and worry, but it's slow going because I'm not particularly motivated. It's kind of boring for me, but I'm struggling. The only reason is I got started. So now once I start, I don't want to. I'm not committed, as the poker players will say. I don't want to waste my investment that's in there already. So I don't care for waste, like that.
Yeah.
But it's also it has its value. But in terms of the transition counseling, that's something that's a bit more fun to do.
Mhm.
So yeah, you'll get there. We'll get there.
Cool.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
cool. Yeah, that
yeah,
one's going to be a very, very good one.
yeah, yeah.
Very good one.
It is really just absolutely utilizing the magic, the incredible magic of perspective shifting. And I don't mean reframing in the way that some psychologists mean it, and way it gets unfortunately utilized sort of in the public, which essentially is it's just BSing yourself to believe something, right? In the same way as people do with affirmations. Oh, I'm wonderful, and it doesn't work. We have to have a legitimate perspective that's real to us, that actually makes sense, to see people as a gift. That's legitimate. It's
Mhm.
not a fudging. It's not me trying to squirm away from the realities. No, this is for real. Tell me honestly that this person wasn't a gift in your life. Okay, they were really nasty. Well, then be happy that they did. Simple as that. Just be honest. If they were really horrible and miserable, well, fine. It's better. The world is better off without them. World's better off without Hitler. Yeah, I agree. Okay, thank you. And just get rid of nonsense in your life. Be real. Be real. Be real. If they were really nice, okay, good. Did you get the most out of it? Yes. Okay. Even if they weren't nice, did I get the most out of it? Yeah. Well, there you go. I'm at peace.
Mhm.
Be at peace with your relationship in life, and you'll be at peace with your relationship in death.
Yeah,
Yes?
absolutely. Mhm.
Right, Beena? Beena?
Yes, my network was a bit problem. Yes.
It's okay. Okay, right. I was just saying, if we're at peace with our relationships in life, we are going to be at peace with our relationships in death. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Celebrate, people. Celebrate. Even if it's all, but up and down. Sometimes still celebrate it. It's part of the experience. It means there's passion sometimes. When it's not all, smooth going. Okay, so we have some passion, but I celebrate the passion. Not maybe that. Okay, we had an argument. Doesn't matter. I'm celebrating the passion. I cared. I cared about the person to actually be in a discussion with them. If I don't care about somebody, I'm not gonna bother to argue with them or get into a discussion with them. Okay, you want to believe your rubbish? Go ahead. I don't care if you think the earth is flat. That's up to you. Or
Mhm.
whatever the thing may be. So when we look at things that way, I really, really celebrate. Okay, celebrate the passion, celebrate the joy, the magic, the awesome. Celebrate. Very cool. Very cool. Different way of living. No.
Mm. Yeah, very,
Very
very different. Yeah. Hmm.
potent way. So perspective shifting, becomes such an incredible tool when it combines with impeccability, which is best use of energy. It's a tool for us to be able to use our energy to best effect. And I really have to say, when it comes to just most of the time when we look at what we are feeling, say, is this a good use of my energy? Is I don't mean sadness or somebody dying now, or transitioning, but just sadness at the world in general, or being upset about the idiocy in the world. Is this a good use of my energy? Yeah, it's important to be aware of the nonsense, but is there stuff to celebrate in the world? Hell yeah. So it's just when we start to look at these two combined, perspective shifting, best use of energy, all starts to fall into place. It's really magical. Anyhow, very cool, very cool, very cool.
Very
Just love
cool.
it. Anything to add, Beena?
This is all perfect now.
It's all perfect now. Is that what Beena said?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Beena. Yes, Beena. It is all perfect now. Yes, yes, yes. Very good, very good. Where were we on capital
Yeah, we're
diplomacy?
on slide 25 of the first module, still finishing the tasks that you
All
added
right.
in there.
That's
Uh,
right. That's right. That's right.
we're partway through that task on 25. The next task is there any diplomacy to focusing on or highlighting right or wrong?
Yeah.
For me, there is no real gain because you're taking a stance. And to be diplomatic, you want to stay neutral and have them see the bigger picture and let them get out of their own bubbles. And so you just need to stay away from the details. Or again, an agreement or right and wrong, you're taking a side. You don't ever want to take a side.
Exactly. And we assume we know what right and wrong is. That's troublesome right there. It's probably the basis of most of your problems when it comes to diplomacy. It's right in there. So when we go out of that and we start to shift on understanding and shifting on multiple perspectives, we suddenly end up in this color world rather than the black and white of right and wrong, right? Which is a very dull and boring world.
Ever take a side and shift to understanding. Absolutely.
Exactly. And anytime you take a side, you have diplomatic problems
Mhm.
automatically. Yeah. Yeah. Even if it works out, and but still, the next time that person's going to want you to side with them again, when it may not to be appropriate, when they may be in the wrong, as it were. But again, both sides are always right and both sides are always wrong, pretty much, when you look at it from a true capital diplomacy point of view. So I know we get caught up in those bubbles sometimes, but yeah, when I get to understanding, it's difficult sometimes. Difficult.
Yeah, yeah. Share examples of perspective shifting and how it's been useful.
Did we have preemptive answer to this one? See previous, right? Yeah, that's your answer. See previous. Yeah, yeah.
For
Very
me,
cool. What did you say? Yeah, what did you say?
perspective shifting can be useful in something as simple as grocery shopping.
Mm,
If we just walk down the aisles and choose food we think we would like to have, but have no overall or weekly meal plan made out, then you can just waste money.
Yeah.
That's the overview perspective.
Yeah.
Also, in regards to relationships and dating, if you only see someone's physical appearance or funny personality, you are really not looking at all the different parts of them emotionally, spiritually, financially, family, kids, community, etc. In those alternative perspectives, you could make a mistake in getting involved because you did not look at all those different aspects of them. The same goes for buying a house. If you don't look at the size, the amenities, the neighborhoods, the cost of living and taxes, house maintenance, interior, exterior, you may not get the full picture if you per se are just looking at a price point, for example. You just kind of narrow yourself down. So perspectives there's so many different types of perspectives: cultural, abstract, overview.
So when you shift your perspective,
Yeah, you shift everything. Yeah, it gives you more information. Ultimately, for me, it really is making a better decision. The more perspectives you have on something. Yeah.
of things from an emotional point of view. What about psychological? What about energy? What about spiritual? Now it's a massive shift, yes?
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
Very
So
cool.
again,
Yeah.
yeah, looking at every one of those, that's why I mentioned all those different ones: emotional, spiritual, even in from that relationship standpoint. The more perspectives you have or understand where, find out where they're coming from, it makes for a really, I mean, look at how many people are married who, I never knew that he was so stuck on his religion. I never knew, that he was so flippant with money. I never, because they get caught up in the sex or the looks or whatever, and it's very narrow-minded.
Yeah. So perspective shifting becomes
Can't hear you.
there we go. There we go. There we go.
There's-
I was saying, we see now when we really apply it in practical usage, what an incredible a power tool perspective shifting is, especially to multiple perspectives. Unbelievable. And all of those ways that we said we shift: psychological, spiritual, emotional, practical, physical, etc. When we do, we can say, what's one way, one thing that I need to keep in mind in order to bring all of those perspectives into play?
Openness, awareness, receptivity, what can you
Energy.
energy. Well, yeah, energy.
When we think of it, best use of energy, immediately my mind, when I say best use of energy, I have to bring all those contexts into play. Yes?
True.
There's no way I cannot think spiritual. There's no way I cannot think, from artistic point of view, even, emotional. I have to automatically best use of energy. They all come into play. That's why impeccability, again, such magic. It all comes back to that. Such a glue, such a glue. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
very cool. Very cool. I just love that. Just love that.
Very cool.
I always try and look for a tool. If I have multiple things, which I sort of have to remember, say, well, how can I package this into one pyramid, and what would be the cap on that pyramid? That's what I just did now in the tool there, right? I took all of those different ways of perspective shifting and say, how can I combine them into one? Yes, they all are best uses of energy. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I look for the commonality. Whenever I have a list of things that I might need to remember, I look for the commonality, and then I just say, I combine them in that. I lump them together, and that's the thing. I don't even have to remember it now. It comes automatically because I've associated, I've tagged it. Yeah. It's very cool. Very cool mechanism. Very cool mechanism. Very useful.
Mhm.
Very energy efficient. Right.
Yeah.
Very, very useful. So what was the thing where you said share examples of perspective shifting and how it's been useful to you? What did you put down there?
Say it again. What?
That last task there. Share examples of perspective shifting and how it's been useful to you. We shared a bunch of stuff, but I don't think you shared what you wrote down.
Yeah. Mine was, even perspective shifting about in being in the grocery store.
Oh, that's what. Oh, that's right. Ah, sorry.
All those
That
different
was,
details, or dating and buying a house.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Now, whenever I go to a grocery store, I think of the Russians.
The Russians. Well,
Yeah, yeah. Well, when in the days of Russia, you always heard about the people going to the grocery store, and you were lucky to find something on the shelves. The shelves were typically empty more than they were full. So it was a big deal. And when they came to America, this freaked them out that you had a grocery store where all the shelves were always full. They couldn't believe it. It was just mind blowing that there the predominance was empty and you had some stuff on the shelves as opposed to the inverse here. So, we take it for granted that the shelves are full, but they aren't always.
mm,
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's
think of those.
yeah. I mean, the wealth in a grocery store, go back in history at any time, transport a grocery store into any place in history in time, today's modern grocery store. And you're going to freak out the people. They won't believe it,
Yeah.
It would just blow everybody's minds. So I always think of this. We are in the magical future now. So perspective
Yeah.
shifting for me. It's like, man, we look at all this incredible stuff. Just too amazing. Still amazing. It's very cool. Yeah. So, in other words, I shift to appreciation. I love going to the grocery store. It's great fun. It's great fun. I always enjoy it. It's a community too. You get to see people, see what they do. So I always observe too. Because in a grocery store you can observe so easily. You got your cart, you're pushing it around, you're looking, but you can totally be people watching, and nobody knows. It's very cool.
I get too distracted. I'm on a mission. I gotta get in and out. Do the
Next
next.
time you have to go grocery shopping, double the time that you allot to it,
All
so
right.
that you can do it as a relaxed, pleasurable opportunity. You're going for a stroll. That's for me. It's my walking exercise.
Oh my God.
Well,
Yeah.
some of it anyway. Well, I go to Walmart. It's pretty big, so it's a lot of walking over there. I go all over.
How's your hip doing?
It's all right. It's not I just need to actually walk more often. So I should really put my headphones on and go walking and use the cell.
Yeah. It's beautiful here. I'm sure it's getting nice there too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. There's no reason not to just I want to get finished with the things that I'm doing, so I have more time to just not do anything. So we're getting there. We're getting there slowly but surely. So, pretty cool.
Now we're
Pretty cool.
switching to slide 29. The task is watch or share from memory how an argument is more about maintaining ego and image than it is about the point itself. How would you deal with this?
Yeah, it still bites me sometimes. Bloody hell, it's annoying.
For me, let's look at my mom's issue with the hearing aid.
Mhm.
She will continue to argue her vanity points of how big her ears are and that she does not want to bring attention to them, or saying that she does not want to hear what everyone else is saying, or that the humming noises in her apartment would be amplified with hearing aid. So she is focused on her ego vanity, that she cannot see the real issue, which is politeness, courtesy, and safety. The best way is to ask her what the consequences are of not hearing, and what are the consequences of hearing others, both sides. Asking if she wants to have meaningful conversations with her friends and family, and also asking if she's concerned about her safety, not even hearing smoke alarms or oven alarms, so she can get out of harm's way. Does she realize there is frustration for others trying to communicate with her? And how does she feel about this? With all these answers, we will get a better understanding of her reasoning and then make our decisions accordingly on how to handle it without being complicit or enabling.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And what about if it's you?
Yeah, I think it's my issue.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, this is in that process, I think is where I realized what my issue was, what my problem was not the fact that she's not listening to what I'm saying and that it makes sense and why wouldn't she want to do this, but the fact that I can't be complicit to that behavior anymore. That was the biggest thing. And I never really understood why I struggled so much with her stupid ass answers of why she wouldn't get it. And you can't tell somebody what to do. That is her choice. But I had to also understand my issue and my problem with the situation, which was I was being inappropriate. I was being complicit to bad behavior.
I find for me personally in this, so when I get caught up in stuff that I don't want to do, be caught up in, and then I realize, oh crap, I got sucked into something again. The remedy is prevention rather than cure.
Mm.
Yeah, to pay attention ahead of the time. Once you're sucked into it, it's kind of too late. You're already in it. And if you think of this issue of prevention, like with your mom, okay, it's not the same issue that I'm talking about, but prevention would have been much more simpler and taken less energy and be more strategic than cure. Right? Because now you have to go to long extremes and present all these massive arguments and really put the pressure. But once somebody's already entrenched, okay, I don't know how much your mom is going to be entrenched, but it sounds like she's pretty entrenched. When somebody entrenched, it's very difficult to get them out. You have to get siege warfare essentially, which is what the issue is here. They're in the castle well entrenched. But when you can prevent that before the time, prevent them getting into the castle in the first place, then it's easy to deal with, a lot easier to deal with. So this is very powerful. This is very powerful.
Mm.
It's very cool.
So think about
So for me personally, in my own immersion into things, when I'm getting caught up in a discussion, getting caught up in whatever nonsense stuff, and that I find that it's so much easier to do prevention. Now, for instance, with depression, I could have been a depressive all my life if I hadn't clicked onto the slippery slope of depression. I remember as a teenager, depression was kind of a new thing, and they were talking about it. Psychology in the 70s was like the whole thing that people were talking about. And so, I really thought about depression. And when I thought it through, I saw how it started. And that first point and the second point, you didn't really think it's so much of a big deal then. But the next thing it was 3, 4, and the next thing you on a slippery slope, and the next thing you were depressed. So I made the resolve then to watch for those first little points and then to turn around and say, no, I'm not going there. And then, so I never got depressed as a result. But the same thing we have to say when it comes to getting caught up in ego and image stuff and defending ourselves and, justifying and all of this stuff. Catch it in the very beginning, nip it in the bud. That's the best use of energy right there. So really, for so many of things which are really the essential problem is immersion, right? It's an immersion bubble. To deal with emotion from inside is difficult, but to deal with it ahead of time, to see it coming, this is a lot easier. Yeah. Because when you aren't immersed, you still have your awareness to be aware of immersion. But once you're immersed, you've lost the idea, the thought, the awareness that you are immersed, right? That's all you're thinking of is the bubble inside. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Isabella.
Hi, Isabella. How are you?
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Brilliant. All
right.
Okay. I find this so potent. I just want to re-emphasize this.
Hi.
Point.
How are you?
I'm listening in and working, so that's why it took me a minute.
No problem. No problem. I'm glad you're listening. Very cool. Very cool. Now, this point about emotion and awareness, boy, it is something that really bites me every now and then. And I really, really, it reaffirms my intent to be attentive and not to get sucked into things. And so I have to really look carefully. Sometimes I get sucked in with my passion, my intent to goodness sucks me in, all sorts of things. And I have to be very, very, very careful of this and really look a bigger picture. Again, look at your overall intent. Look at what's important to you. Look at where you are committed. Look at where you're putting your energy. It's very powerful. Very powerful. Now, again, in like in relationships, yes, you are committed into a relationship and you are entrenched there and you want to be. And sometimes you're going to get caught up in an awareness bubble, but don't let that corrupt the relationship in the totality. Yes. So big picture, big picture. No, sometimes, yes, I won't always see it, but I'm not going to let this kill the whole thing because I sometimes slip a little bit. So yeah, it happens. Move on. Next, don't give it undue respect, in other words. Yeah. Big deal, big deal, big deal.
The next task is, if you are focused on integrity and honesty and are also not naive and gullible, does this make it easy for those who want to engage in less than that, the up and up?
Yeah.
For
Less
me,
than the up and up. Not, yeah.
what's that?
No, there's a typo there.
Less than the up and up.
And the up and up. Yeah.
Okay. For me, my integrity and honesty and not being naive and gullible should cue and leverage the other person to do so.
Exactly.
Without forcing, you hope that they will do the same.
Right.
So
Also, just even if they know, if they're a flat out BMN criminal, you watch people, they don't come and approach the innocent, like, okay, they want to sell you drugs. If they know that you're going to go to the cops and report them, like at school, for instance, you don't go to the goody shoes and try and sell them, your hard drugs. You're going to run straight to the principal. So you just avoid that. So we can take this to a next level and really understand this mechanism. And then people don't even try and come with you with their nonsense because they see, I'm focused on integrity and honesty. I may be naive and even potentially, unaware of things, but it doesn't make me gullible. Gullible is a willingness to believe without being thorough, without checking it through, and willing to deceive yourself and stuff like that. So when you see this and you practice this, I'm not going to waste my time trying to con this person because they're thorough, they're disciplined, they get second opinions, they check it out, so waste of time and energy. Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful.
They go in the other direction.
And preemptive strategies. Yeah. Very cool.
Still on 29.
Yeah. One of those things, birds of a feather F together. It's very powerful to remember, like seeks out like, I always found it so fascinating, like when I had the stores, how my employees, they could absolutely recognize, and depending on who they were, like if they were drinkers, they would immediately, even a customer and other employees also drinking, they would just initially, and literally within like the first minute, they'd be talking about drinking or talking about, smoking marijuana or whatever it was. They could see each other, they could smell it somehow. It was incredible to me. It was really, really fascinating how they knew, Yeah. Well, what smokers, when they're bumming a cigarette, they very seldom ask a non-smoker for a cigarette. They always go find a smoker and they can kind of just pick them out, even if they haven't seen the person smoking. And, oh yeah, can I bum a cigarette? It's fascinating. It's fascinating. But again, it makes sense. As a survival skill, the ability to recognize those who you can identify and associate and relate to and who are in the same pond as you, this is a fantastic magical skill, because otherwise you can get into trouble very quickly. So it makes sense to have the skill. Yeah.
Next task is share exactly what humility means to you and how it relates to and connects to capital D diplomacy. The maker of the questions.
Yeah, I like that question. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
For me, staying humble and keeping all perspectives open and made obvious is so important, as there are so many cultures who live in an ego and status driven environment. If you make another look bad or lose face uh, to someone, this can be one of the most unforgivable, very defensive when it comes to denting their pride. So they could become very defensive and very revengeful. The key for me is never thinking I am better than anyone else. I am just me. And when I sit in my goodness and impeccability, it allows me to see the moreness in others through understanding them better instead of judging or comparing.
In the context of capital D diplomacy, if I'm just reiterating what you're saying, just reframing, just extending a little bit, going a bit more into it. But same thing, I'm really repeating back. We're saying when we approach a circumstance requiring capital D diplomacy, our humility says, maybe I've got something that might not help, not solve the problem, but to be of value, maybe, right? So we are coming in, our humility says that we don't say we do have solutions. We don't saying we can fix stuff. We are just saying maybe, possibly, here we go. I don't know if this will work or not, but here we go. See if this might do something. And it's a free gift. We're not saying you should use it. On top of that, our humility says, if you want to, okay. If not, no worries, not a problem. You're under no obligations. I'm not expecting you to use it. That's it. It's just purely free. But because we are humble, this is obvious that we don't think and believe that it is a solution. Even if it actually is, our humility comes from this, that we don't insist that it is. Regardless of whether it is or not, that insistence automatically causes a problem. Yes? Because then it becomes telling. And even if you're right, I still don't like to be told that I'm wrong.
Mhm.
Right? Or I don't like to be told, never mind that I'm wrong, but that you're right. I don't want to be told stuff. I want to figure it out on myself. I want to come to it myself. So our humility says, maybe, just maybe, there's a different path we can take here. I'm not saying your path is wrong, but I'm just saying, hey, did you notice that there's another path going that way? Oh, no, I didn't notice. Thank you very much. I didn't say anything at all about the right or wrongness of your path. I simply pointed out that there's another one. I didn't even say, did you notice? I said, there's another path here. Wow.
Mhm. Yeah. So when you approach a situation that may need capital D diplomacy, you can consider that you may have a solution or help, but with our humility, you know that it's going to be a free gift to them. And that because we don't insist that it's a solution, we just
Exactly.
offer it as a possible
Exactly.
alternative.
That's the
Yeah.
key. We don't even think it's solution. We are just thinking alternatives, options. Because, well, this ain't working. So, okay, I don't know if this will work either, but it's a different path. That's it. I'm not even focusing on whether your path is working or not. I don't even bring that and say, hey, look, here's another path. Very cool. But that's our humility. Because our humility is saying, I cannot under any circumstance assume I know. I can point out that, hey, here's another path. That's it. Whether you hear me or not, whether you see it or not, maybe, maybe not. But I'm just pointing it out. That's it. I'm not doing anything more, anything less. Yeah. So our humility is diplomacy, no?
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. That's it. That's the puncher right there. Our humility is our diplomacy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just when we are humble, it automatically makes, relative to the universe, I'm an idiot. What the hell do I know? But I can make an effort.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
I can
Yeah.
share,
There's
I
no.
can be aware, that's it. But my humility says I cannot insist that I have solutions.
Mhm.
No matter how much I might think so, I can't insist so. Big difference. I
Yeah.
can say, hey, maybe this, maybe that, whatever, and I can have, Mr. Brightspark offering a lot of solutions which may annoy people. But if I'm humble about it, well, could be, could be, could be. I don't insist that it is, no matter, even if there are good suggestions.
Mhm.
That humility makes it palatable.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, that's the key. Humility makes alternatives palatable.
Yeah. Yeah. And again,
And
you
that's
can't force anything
exactly,
when you're being humble.
exactly. But capital diplomacy. That's why I said humility is a capital diplomacy because it makes things palatable.
Mhm.
That's the key. That's the diplomacy. It's making things palatable, really.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Soft.
I can even make that into a quote. Capital D diplomacy is simply the art of making the unacceptable palatable. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you're really good at it, you even make it tasty. Yeah.
Get the
Very
yellow
cool.
yum yum after that one. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now jump to slide 34 for the tasks. How would you cue a boundary?
Oh.
For me, if you set up a good positive expectation or expectations and make space for the other person to share, we will learn to understand them better in the environment we create, and it helps to avoid their old habits and reactions to come forth. No force is enacted to do this. It is our impeccability, our unrelenting positivity, and integrity that actually leads the way when we cue.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so if
Could
you just put that
oh
in the forefront, then I don't know how you could go wrong.
yeah. Could you also cue a boundary through non-responsiveness? And I don't mean ignoring, but simply not reciprocating or not interacting. So somebody's keeping and pushing, and you just don't respond. Say, I'm not going there. You don't even have to say it. You just don't react. And it's not like you listening because that's still interacting, but you just cease to interact, not react. And
Yeah,
it's a boundary through a lack of interaction. Again,
yeah,
you're not retreating or removing because now also that could cue all sorts of other stuff. But simply say, yes, my boundary, and I'm not going to go there. You can talk about it, but I'm not going there.
yeah. But that non-interacting, non-responsiveness is also being impeccable because that's a better use of your energy. It's also being unrelentingly positive as to not, create a friction that's in there. And it's really connects to the integrity too when you're non-responsive because you believe in yourself and what you stand for. You don't have to stand there and agree or disagree with somebody else. You're content when at peace with yourself. Yeah, yeah. Mhm. So yeah, I think
Exactly.
non-responsiveness
And we are looking at this,
is
how do you cue a boundary in the context of the diplomacy, of course. Right. Non-interactiveness rather than non-responsiveness. Because I can be non-responsive but still be interactive if I'm really listening and paying attention. But if I've just ceased to interact, well, then the stuff it's coming, but it's I've sort of I'm not ignoring you, but I'm not interacting. So yes, it's not about being non-responsive, but it's non-reactive. I'm not contemplating what you're saying. I'm not totally ignoring, but I'm also not really thinking about it. I'm not giving it attention. I'm not giving it space because, well, this is my boundary. I don't want to. Yeah. So I hear, but I'm not interacting with what I hear. So it makes it very diplomatic, as it were. It's just like the stuff is. It's almost not like it's registering. It's not like it's connecting. It's not like I'm deliberately ignoring, but it's also not getting through because there's a boundary there.
mhm, through
Very
hearing.
soft boundary, very subtle boundary, but very diplomatic boundary. Yeah.
Yeah. So the boundaries through just hearing.
Yeah, because we are looking at cue a boundary as to deliberately say, look, when it comes to dishonesty and criminal behavior, forget it. I don't even have to say that. But sometimes I might, say, look, I'm happy to be a party to whatever you're doing as long as it's not criminal. That sometimes does come up. Yeah. Or we could say, as long as it's not impeccable or doesn't, I don't have to trash my conscience. I'm up for whatever you want to do, as long as it's ethical. It might not be legal, but that doesn't make it ethical necessarily. So we can sometimes state boundaries very specifically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Smelling fuel.
Uh-oh. Something you need to go check.
Unless something sprung a leak, just,
You need to go.
panically coming
It's
from
strong. It's strong inside the RV.
somewhere, just no, it's not that strong.
Oh.
There's a little breeze and it is coming through the window, so it just definitely was carried on the breeze. Like there was a nice little fresh puff and it took it away. So sensitive nose. It's really interesting. That's about doing to defining a boundary, stating a boundary is to do it. There we go. So the key here is to cue the boundary as opposed to stating. Yeah. It's a different skill to cue boundary because sometimes when you state the boundary in diplomatic context can.
Can't hear you.
Well, you not heard the last part? Oh wow, why not? Come on, I can see it.
Cancel. Oh, still there.
Hang on. Let's shift.
I'll be right back.
Hello, Isabella. She's not, I guess she's not close to.
No, it'll come in a moment. I'll switch to the cell.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey,
Like I said, I'm working, so it's not that I don't hear you. It's not that I'm not paying
it's good.
attention. It's likely I'm typing a message to
good.
someone and
No worries. It's appropriate because this is Sue's time now. So, it's a Sue session now. So it's appropriate just to be listening. No worries. No
I
problem.
sent you a message because when you came, I was not close to my laptop. So I just sent you a message later saying, hello. Sorry, I was away from here.
oh.
Yeah, Sue will
Yeah,
be back.
I just barely saw that. I do a lot of my work on Facebook Messenger, so that's the best place to reach out to me.
Okay, no problem. No problem. We'll just
You should hear me now, right, Sue? You hear me now?
Very clear. Very
I was
clear.
just saying, in a capital D diplomacy point of view, sometimes stating your boundaries could be problematic. Because if I state a boundary, let's say, okay, I'm uncomfortable with, I don't know, something that's not criminal, but okay, pornography. I'm uncomfortable with pornography. In a capital D diplomacy situation, this could now make me vulnerable to manipulation. See? So cueing a boundary is much more effective in this case rather than stating it deliberately, because there's not a certainty here, and I just don't react. I don't respond. I don't interact. So you don't know how I'm internally reacting to this. You just don't get anything back from me. So it just wastes your time, right? So that's the key difference. When you cue a boundary rather than state it, you're leaving it ambiguous and you are removing the effort reward involved. Because they get nothing back. So there's no point in pursuing it. I don't know if this is an issue or not. I'm just not getting anything back. I might not even be a boundary. It might just be I'm out of energy to deal with whatever you're pushing my way. So I don't know, but I remove that ability to see there is some reward from a manipulation point of view.
Yeah.
So sometimes an unclear boundary is your most diplomatic ally. Yeah. Also, what happens if it's something where it's just a personal issue and okay, take pornography. I'm in a conference where we are discussing the role of technology in transforming society. If somebody doesn't bring up, VCRs and how they transform the internet, why? Because of pornography. Yeah, that would be inappropriate. But I can't say I'm uncomfortable with it. Would be inappropriate just because it's my thing particularly. I can't say it's inappropriate in the context of the conference. It's utterly appropriate, right? Because it was totally transformative. So we have to be very careful with our boundaries, that they don't also, when you state them directly, that they don't cue inappropriateness. What is a personal boundary is not necessarily a general boundary. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
It's contextual always. So we have to be very careful here, So it's like, I don't want to go there. All right, I'm sensitive to what we're talking about this because, well, I had a thing in trauma in my life. Okay, it's a me thing, in other words. But when, so when we say on some boundaries, people can accept, okay, I know it's peculiar, it's a me thing, but I'm not stating it directly, which again, doesn't open me up to manipulation, but does make somebody aware that there's no point in going further. So very cool, very subtle, very, very, very subtle too. Yeah. Cool. That's it. Half of capital diplomacy is in subtlety, no?
Yeah, it's all about subtlety. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Next one.
Next one is share some examples, real or imagined, of where giving someone a good name or the benefit of the doubt took place and what happened or what happens inside the individual receiving this benefit. For me, Cheryl is a perfect example of this.
Yeah.
When you see the moreness and the goodness in others, despite their old habits and doings, it allows them to be more instead of emphasizing and validating their bad behavior. So they will feel compelled to live up to those old conditioned ways.
Yeah. It's huge. It's huge. It's huge what happens on the inside. And, in most of what we do as facilitators is this one simple thing is what's transformative. We provide an environment where you can be more, and that's all there is to it. So, giving someone a good name, we're assuming right from day go, first module 1, session 1, we're giving you that good name, right? And look how the participants aim to live up to that. Yes, because they know it's true, of course. Right. And they just got an opportunity to acknowledge this. It's a very, very, very big deal. It's not just about goodness. Also, like in the case of Cheryl, it's about acknowledging her intelligence, her sensitivity, her artistry, her moreness, her sophistication, all sorts of things. Incredibly powerful thing. But what I'm saying is it gets individuals involved, very, very invested at maintaining that.
Yeah.
So
it was interesting. Last night, my brother and sister-in-law were here for dinner, and they were talking about their son's wedding. And she goes, "You have to make me a promise." I said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "You have to make me a promise if Cheryl acts up at the wedding, that you will escort her out."
Wow. So what about you, Jody? If you act up, do I escort you out?
Exactly. I said, first of all, there's no need to worry about that. Well, blah, blah. And then at one point, Bill chimed in. He says, Cheryl is changing.
Oh.
Cheryl has changed already. Wow. And I said, and she's like, what are you guys talking about? And I said, she's involved in a program. I said, and she's committed to it. I said, and it's a year-long program. So she goes, whoa, really? I said, she's changing. That's all I'm going to say.
Brilliant. She's
it
already
never
changed.
Yeah. It never really was. I mean, that they had one incident at a restaurant that she had her new daughter-in-laws exposed when Cheryl didn't like the service of the waiter, and she was making a big deal. Well, they didn't even take our drink order yet, and they were embarrassed for themselves,
I would have put money on it that this comment came from some trivial, foolish embarrassment.
It did.
Right, exactly. I'm saying I would have put money on it, just knowing the players involved, even superficially as I did, I would have been willing to bet that that was the issue. Because that's inevitably what it is, unfortunately. It's some petty nonsense. Oh, I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to look
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. But again, my integrity, my impeccability said, don't worry about it. I know where she's at. And I stood there and kind of, and stood up for Cheryl.
Yes.
Not going, yeah, you're right, Joe. Yeah, she gets really goofy. And yeah, I know you remember that incident. And again, there would being complicit to her ignorance and thinking. And, so I said, trust me, it's not going to happen. It won't.
But even more so, you put the idea into their heads, their eye that, oh, Cheryl has changed. So now they're going to be looking at Cheryl. Let's see how Cheryl's changed and cueing her. And of course, Cheryl's a sharp cookie. She's going to see this and be aware that they're expecting a different behavior from her. They might not exactly get the behavior that they anticipate and expect. Knowing Cheryl, she's going to throw them a few curveballs just to keep them on their toes. But that's Cheryl's fun now. But still, is not going to just be cookie cutter, Miss Goody Two Shoes in your mold. No, I'm going to be good and sensible in my mold. So I might still make you uncomfortable, but in a different way, not in a way that you can find fault with, right? Yeah. So, this will be very exciting. When is the wedding?
July the 3rd.
Oh, good. 3rd. Lots of time still. All right, cool. So we have 2 full months. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. So, that's a whole universe away, right? That's, in way of impeccability point of view, sessions in session time, that's a lifetime away, right? Yeah. That's very cool. Very cool.
Next task is, do individuals who are receiving the benefit of positive cueing behave the same with those providing benefits as they do with others?
Individuals who are receiving the benefits of positive cueing
behave the same.
Right. In other words, yeah. I mean, it's just my brain didn't catch it. Yeah. I don't have to say another word. Yeah. Go ahead.
For me, yes, the positive cueing leverages them to do the same positive actions or words. On the converse, if they're cued with negativity, then they will only feel the need to give negativity or sarcasm back, just like an animal who's backed into a corner. Appropriate positive cueing is essential. Yeah. I mean, why would you want to cue negativity?
Right. The question though was on a slight shift here. In other words, if I'm cueing you we'll just make this now direct, so because it's easier for the example. I'm cueing you to in a positive cueing to be more in this. Does that necessarily the relationship between us? Does this necessarily apply when we are not present? When I'm not present, and do you necessarily take this new leveraged behavior and apply it with your boss or with your friends or whatever? Not necessarily, at least in my experience. So it's just something to be aware of, that we are creating a microclimate of interactivity, and somebody can respond in this environment in ways that they would not necessarily do outside. And it's something to be aware of, so that we don't create a false equivalence, as it were, and a false sense of confidence. Because yes, you're behaving in this environment, you're getting all the cueing, you're getting the expectations of your moreness, your positivity, but can you take that and translate it elsewhere? So you'll notice in way of impeccability how we focused on that application to go and apply it in your work, in your relationship, in outside, wherever you go to the supermarket, wherever. Without that being able to carry it over elsewhere, you've got to go and test it and self-prove it. Otherwise, it's just here. It just becomes a bubble immersion. Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
All right. So the point of this task here is to be aware that it could be a bubble immersion, our positive cueing of somebody else.
Gotcha. So we create that microenvironment with them and them alone. That does not guarantee one iota that when they go talk to their boss or whoever, that they're going to react or respond or communicate the same way. They're not. Yeah,
right.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Conversely, when dealing with BMNs, we can similarly deliberately create that immersion bubble and say, look, I get on fine with this BMN, and when they deal with me, I'm okay. Why? Because I'm treating them differently. And
Mhm.
this can be very, very useful, can be a very powerful way of dealing with BMNs. We treat them in such a way that they try and live up to it because, of course, they're insecure and they have the egos. And if they see you as sort of influential and authoritative, and you are treating them like they special, oh man, you've probably seen it in situations where people are in some kind of a hierarchy, how they suck up to the people and behave all positively, but not necessarily sucking up. It's a kind of a sucking up, but you're giving them the benefit of the doubt. And of course, they try and live up to this positive image you have of them because they don't. This is their whole deal in life. But it gets them to not be negative and nasty and crappy around you. Now, yes, they are going to do it with others, but at least I can avoid them doing it with me. And by extension, I can suck people into my bubble as well, which also helps. So it is a way of leveraging that situation. So
Mhm.
it's a very nuanced application. It requires a lot of skill and a lot of effort because with BMNs they transgress every now and then, and you've got to have the skill in the moment to have that semi-permeable awareness to kind of not know, they didn't notice that, did, because they transgress all the time, but you kind of got to not notice it, and they kind of will look at you and check, did they see that? And then you have this awareness that you didn't notice it. Thank heavens they didn't see that. Well, of course you did, but still you de-emphasize it so rapidly that they don't notice because you're watching ahead of time.
Right.
It's not easy, but it can definitely be done, so very
Mhm.
powerful too. Very powerful too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we can't change the BMN necessarily, but we can change how they behave with us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very powerful. Very, very, very powerful.
Yeah. Last question here on 34 is, what all can we cue?
Mm.
For me, so much and so easily, just if you just use your dictionary of power conceptions, you can cue whatever you want. It's endless. I didn't need to really go into the,
Yeah, it's a bit of a dumb question, but still.
but it was
you
good.
know,
Yeah.
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 It really makes us realize that, pretty much anything we do cues something.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always queuing in some way or another, right?
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
cannot avoid it. And that's a big deal. That's the point here, right? No matter what you do, you cue. Yeah. I mean, you look at, somebody who never says a word and never does anything. They are queuing complacency. They are queuing, I don't know, acceptance. They are queuing detachment, whatever. They're always queuing something. So we have to be aware of this. And as such, this is the power, once again, of impeccability.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm at peace with who I am and I have my independence of being and peace of being, whatever I cue, that's it. I'm at peace.
Mm-hmm.
So be it.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And my unrelenting positivity, my mindset, my ethics, all of this, my integrity, that's it. I'm okay with what I'm queuing. And this is a very, very powerful deal. Very powerful. I'm not saying believe this or believe that. I'm simply being who I am, take it or leave it. I'm queuing that you have choice. I'm queuing that you can take it or leave it. I'm queuing that I'm not insisting. Why? Because humility is such a big part of it. So I'm queuing that humility. So I'm always queuing capital diplomacy, no, in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
because my humility is really a big part of me. So when you see me, I say, well, they're not saying they are right. They're not saying their way is the way to be. They are saying this is their way to be. So I'm queuing choice. Since
Mm-hmm.
we can queue anything specifically, the one thing that I do feel I can ethically queue is choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm queuing that you get to choose. You get to choose. You can choose. You have the option to choose. Choice is a choice. This is what I'm queuing. That's the one thing that I can ethically queue. And that trumps everything else. If all my stuff, like for instance, my humility is not queuing that I'm useless and wimpy and know nothing. No, it simply says that how much I may forcefully and powerfully and energetically apply what I do, I'm still doing it because it's me and only me, and I still might be wrong. So I'm always cueing choice. Yeah. Huge deal. Huge deal. That's the only thing that we can adamantly cue in the totality. And this is choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Choice. Absolutely.
That's it. Choice, choice, choice.
More choice.
Yeah. So I walk by wherever I'm in the world, wherever I'm in the universe, and say, wow, okay, I got a choice here. I got a choice here. Wow. Okay. That's interesting. It's a very different way of being. But they also, I might not even think consciously of it. Wow, I get to, maybe I could be that. It'll be automatically in there, not like, oh, this is how you should be, because it's implied with our humility and the skewing of choice, right? So you walk past the kids and they'll just look at you and say, wow, that's a way that somebody could be, not, oh, this is the way you should be. Because you can see how people queue and walk all self-importantly, and they're queuing, this is how you should be. And a kid looking at that, oh, that's how I should be. Yeah. That to me is, in my personal conscience, is unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. Yeah. So, yeah. So we can cue everything. But what all can we cue in the context of our conscience? It now comes down to one thing only. Right?
Integrity, impeccability.
Right. Exactly. Choice. Choice, choice, choice. When it comes to our conscience, we can only cue choice. Yeah. I mean, technically, we can cue everything. Right? If you answer the question from that perspective, in the context of what can I cue ethically in terms of my own conscience, I can only cue choice. Yeah. I mean, even integrity, I have to say, integrity has to be a choice. If you're doing it because you're forced to have integrity, well, that doesn't mean anything. So, isn't that amazing? Fun question. Fun question. Contextual perception. I just love that. I just love that. Just love that.
So then we had already gone through a module 2. So I started module 3 after I went.
Oh, wow, exciting, exciting. Was there nothing added to module 2?
No.
Okay. I don't know if I did or not, so I'm not sure. I don't think so, but yeah, module 3.
You said
Cool,
it was
cool.
just the tasks that
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure. I didn't remember, but I don't think so. Yeah.
So module 3, slide 2 is about.
Yeah, yeah. So before we go to module 3, just on module 2, since it's all about adamance, to understand that we are not necessarily being adamant in itself, but we are being adamant about certain things. Slight difference. There are times when we are in capital diplomacy, when we do need to be adamant, there are certain times that you're going to do this, to say, well, I have to be adamant that we are going to discuss this in order to get a resolution. I mean, stuff like that. If we don't get together, we're not going to solve your problems between husband and wife. I'm the arbitrator here. Well, I have to be adamant that we at least talk about it. You don't have to talk about it with each other, but you have to at least talk about it. So there are some things that we do need to be adamant about directly, but still, it's usually an adamant about something, not being adamant in and of itself. Right? It's not that we have this attitude of adamance about everything. No, we actually have an adamance of flexibility and fluidity and adaptability. Yes. Even though we are absolutely rock solid adamant about some things, we are still coming not from this attitude of adamance. So it's a very subtle deal with adamance. Yes. Yeah. I mean, somebody looking at us won't say, oh, they're an adamant person. Because, well, what's the difference between adamant and obnoxious? Not very much, right? Or stubborn. It's kind of part of the same spectrum, yes? Okay, adamant might be a little bit more polite way of being an obnoxious or being stubborn, yeah? Maybe a bit more palatable. But nonetheless, you could be say, oh, well, are they intransigent? See? So we have to be very careful with our adamants. It's only adamants about certain things. We aren't intransigent. We are very flexible. We are very fluid. We perspective shifting. Our middle name is flexibility and fluidity and adaptability. However, as appropriate.
Yeah, and that's why we had talked about this, about the fact that that word adamant is just so harsh. And so, but after you said, well, I could have maybe choose another word, but I said, no, now that I understand the adamant part about it, that you're just being adamant about certain things about.
And the word is adamance, not adamant.
Adamant. Exactly.
Yes, and it's a big difference between the two. I possess adamance, but I'm not adamant necessarily in general. There are going to be times, yes, when I will be, but that's simply, it's as appropriate again. So it's a subtle thing, but the big deal. Yeah. I just wanted to reconfirm that, since, we're just going over that again, just so that we have this clearly established going into session 3, module 3. It has to be, that's a very, very clear discernment distinction there.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. No, I get.
I possess adamance, but also flexibility, fluidity, adaptability, appropriateness, shifting, care, consideration. All of the consideration is all about flexibility and fluidity, no? So I'll go the long way around. I'll do this, but I'm also adamant, but about certain things. Yeah. All right. Very cool. Very cool.
And again, that's that appropriate adamance. And then when you add that to it, it just clears everything up.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it was, the brain struggled with that for me, that word for a bit throughout the session, but the more you drove that point home, I could see there why it was what it was. Yeah. So it's okay.
We employ adamance appropriately.
Exactly.
Yeah. We are not being adamant in general. Yeah. Right. We are being diplomatic in general.
That's right. Yeah. So now we're on module 3. It's integration. So slide 2 is assimilation. Capital D diplomacy is not only an external implementation, it's also an excellent internal soul space for us as spirit warriors to enhance, leverage, and extend our own appropriateness, magnifying our ability to adapt and shift by maintaining focus of purpose. My takeaway on that quote was, we need to assimilate our capital D diplomacy internally and externally to leverage all parts of ourselves by being adaptable, by maintaining our focus of purpose. That's what I took out of
that. Rigidity is what leads to fragility.
Yeah.
I mean, the more rigid something is, the more fragile it becomes. At least if it's a little bit thin. You can have something that's very rigid, but like a cliff that's very it's too thick to be fragile. But still, in general, rigidity it's easy to crack and shatter. So yes, I mean, the cliff face is very rigid, but relatively easy to crack and shatter in little bits at a time. Sure, or like a castle's walls, which is why all castles are vulnerable to siege, because they aren't actually strong enough to absorb. They're rigid, and the things crack and crumble and eventually break the whole thing down. Yeah. So when we're looking at this flexibility and fluidity, this is our strength. This is our power. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Slide 3, radical receptivity.
Sorry, I had a fun thought.
Yeah.
If you built your castle walls out of rubber, can you imagine? Shoot the cannonballs in and boom, they bounce back.
Right back
Maybe something, or some super absorbent material, that like a bulletproof vest kind of a thing. Even if they shoot explosive things, it just absorbs it, and there you go. That's something.
Radical receptivity. The repeat back is the difference between regular diplomacy and capital D diplomacy is that a smooth and stable connectivity and communication with absolute receptivity. Regular conventional diplomacy is mainly about inflecting another's decision. Another's decision
to get the desired specific outcome or result.
ability to get a desired result or outcome. Yeah, there was when you have that spelling error, it just throws you off. Yeah.
I know. Read it again then.
It came up malign, and I'm like,
To align maybe then.
yeah, and that and infecting.
Oh, another's ability, not align, their ability.
Yeah, infecting another's decision.
Oh.
Wait, really?
Decision-making ability.
You got it.
Yeah.
There it is. Making ability to get a specific desired. That makes sense. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. All
Uh,
right, so let's just go over that again, what you said, so that I get the point of it, because I got.
Regular conventional diplomacy is really mainly about affecting another's decision-making ability to get a desired result or outcome. It's influence. It's inappropriate influence.
Yeah, it's exactly, or even manipulation or pressure, really.
Yes.
Yeah. But in a supposedly subtle way. Say again, Beena?
I was just saying that yet it's purely manipulation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's a very gentle manipulation, but still manipulation. Whereas capital D diplomacy, yes, if we now really want to get technical, we can say it is manipulation, but we can say it's ethical manipulation. If I manipulate you to get to where you choose freely and clearly, is this really manipulation or not?
Yeah.
Okay. So it is anything can be looked at through any lens. So we have to be careful here. Whenever we are instrumental in a particular result happening, are we manipulating?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have to understand that sometimes, yes, okay, I am manipulating you, but I'm manipulating to get to a point where you get to choose.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can undo all my manipulation if you so choose. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I prefer to think of it as gentle guidance instead of manipulating, someone or cueing them to get to a different place. That manipulation doesn't sound like it.
Exactly. I'm making the point that somebody who wants to be technical, like a computer could say, yeah, but that's just manipulation. Yes, but it's ethical manipulation. Yes. So, it's just the nuance of this. When we just make peace with manipulation and say, yes, there are times when the manipulation is appropriate and other times not, like every other possible tool. So it depends how I use it. Can I justify it? Is my conscience at peace? If I'm using manipulation to get to a point of choice, all right, I can live with that, because sometimes that's all that I have. It's my only tool that's available to me. So this is capital diplomacy. That capital D, which says that when you get to the point where you are choosing and you're aware and you're doing so freely, I'm at peace. You can go and cancel all my things, and I'm happy to, whatever means I use to get there, because this is ultimate consideration. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Capital D diplomacy is not about influencing others, but on the converse, to assist them in seeing multiple possible perspectives by adjusting and building comprehensive communications. There are many tools for this: appropriate vocab usage for us and them, emotional connectivity with the current or particular perspective. Yeah. So my takeaway is, for me, we do not engage in regular diplomacy as it is just a persuasion or manipulation and influencing to get others to a specific desired result or outcome. Instead, we use capital D diplomacy, which has nothing to do with influencing, but instead to assist them to see other perspectives and build comprehensive communications by using many tools available like receptivity, appropriate vocabulary for all parties involved, and having an emotional connection with the current or particular perspective.
Right. So when we say help them, so what did you say? Assist them to see other perspectives?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can we rephrase that? Because even that could be, if I'm putting out a communique, that could be mistaken, right? But if I said rather that we expand the range of available options,
mm-hmm.
Wow, that sounds a lot better. What am I doing? Somebody asked me, I'm giving a news broadcast. Okay, you the capital D diplomats, you hear from Nobilia. What is it that you guys do exactly? Oh, typically what we do is we expand the range of available options. Oh, what do I say to that? That's it. And that's typically what I'm doing. I'm not saying always, but usually, at least we strive to expand the range of available options. Wow. Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. And nobody can argue. I'm not manipulating. I'm not being abusive. I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do. I'm simply expanding the range of available options. Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. That's a nice way to think of it. I was just listening to what you were saying.
Mhm.
And, when you think of it
Yeah,
in
no,
that.
even the word, instead of seeing, it could have been consider, which would have been a much bigger,
Exactly.
changed it, yeah.
Exactly.
Expand the range of other available options or perspectives. Yeah, no, it's definitely
Very cool. Very cool.
more
Very cool.
appropriate
Very
there.
yeah.
Slide 4 and 5 were combined because it was just listing Biela's list of communication tips.
Right. Cool. Yeah.
So outgoing communication. Communications is for sure interactive, even when we are the only ones talking, because sometimes this cannot be avoided, even when using capital D diplomacy. For more perspective, here are some things pertaining to such communication when we are receivers, as we are applying capital H hearing. Biela's list of communication.
Before you start on that list, I just wanted to go through the introduction to this, right? That, yes, of course, communication is interactive. Communication is a two-way, right? And that's what makes it communication, other than just talking or just hearing, right? So when there's communication I take what you do, what you say, and I build it into what I'm doing, and I adapt in the moment to include your response to what I'm doing, even if I'm standing on a stage. Any good public speaker will tell you that they always shift in some way to react to the crowd, even if it's just in a matter of their pacing or their cadence or anything like that, right? The emotionality, so they always will react in some way, maybe just emphasis. But now we are saying that there are times, though, when we are the ones just doing the talking, but that doesn't mean we aren't communicating. Yes, I wanted to just make this point very clear, that sometimes you are talking, but you're always communicating. Yes, it's always a feedback loop. Always a feedback loop.
In some shape or form, yes.
In some shape or form, correct. Now, even if we might be doing a broadcast where there is no actual direct live feedback, like a radio broadcast, I'm still communicating at least with a perceived audience. In the moment when I'm sharing, I'm feeling how this might be received, how it might be connected to, and I use that to build into me and my feedback. Yeah. So even though there isn't a directness, I can imagine it, and that way feel at least that I'm communicating, and thus my one-way communication will feel to others that it is in some way reactive. Yeah.
Right. And
they don't know there's not a live audience there. But since they now feel part of that, and they feel like they are sort of being heard, even if not directly, but in some way. So it makes them part of the community. Very subtle, but very powerful. Yeah. Because a communication makes that involvement, and it's giving respect to people. I'm not preaching at you. I'm involved. I'm communicating with you. I'm sharing. Okay, no problem. Great. I'm glad you come and listen. That's good. Yeah.
It's like Donna, hard exit. Yeah.
It's all
good. It's 10:52. We're going to stop there because there's a lot of Biela's.
Yes. And I am keen to go through each one.
Yeah, I figured.
And say how do we get into? Yeah, it's fun. I love this list. It's a very cool list. I thought. A very, very cool list. Yeah. Because we're so focused on hearing you, we have been, and listening and being that we're not necessarily focused on our outgoing communications. It's part of what we've done where it's kind of one-sided, we haven't really focused on this. So this is an opportunity for it. This is very cool. So I'm very pleased this has come into it. So yeah,
Yeah.
exciting
Also,
stuff.
yeah, I did not. There was a in context application. There was a URL. There was a link there.
Oh, on the next slide, let me see.
On I think
Oh,
slide 5.
yeah. So
It
all that is, yeah. You didn't have to go there. Yeah. So all that is, it's a link to the original story in which Biala shares her communication tips.
Oh,
Yeah.
because I'm like, where is this going? I started to open it up. For me, going in the middle of some like a story or coming in is troublesome to me. And I'm thinking, and so I put all these question marks. I'm like,
Yeah, no problem. But you see what I mean here by in context. That's why it's hyphenated for in context application. If you want to see this in context and how it's being applied in context, go and look here. But you don't need to. Yeah, you don't need to. I mean, it's just because when you read through the tips and you see how the story goes, you see that they part of a game and part of inside VR, and they apply these and through the interaction with the game part. So it's just fun if you want more, just to see how actually that Biella and the group actually used these specifically and demonstrated their usage. That was the task that they had for them in the game. Yeah. So again, it's just for somebody who want extra,
Gotcha.
I want to bring in more links.
There's no vocal on it. There's no
No
audio, because you can't. I couldn't do that on that.
It's just a link to the original article. At least I mean, it's part of a book. It's part of book 3 of the Biella series. Well, it's just where I have it published right now. At some point, yes, I will link it and put audio to it.
Okay. Cool.
But again, it's just bonus. It's just bonus stuff, really. It doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
I mean, because if you really want to get the fullness of the context, you have to kind of read. Yes, you can kind of figure it out from just where I started the story. But if you want more, you have to go further back, and see the whole. You have to read the whole book, in other words. But yeah, fun book.
All
Biala's
right.
Tour of Possibilities. It's called
The what? The what of possibility?
Biala's Tour of Possibilities.
Okay.
Yeah. She explores virtual reality and just shows the potential possibilities. Now, of course, there's always more usage in this, but still, it's a powerful tool, or could be a powerful tool, and she just demonstrates this. So it's just possible. It's just a fun thing, really. It's not. I mean, there's a lot in it, of course. As always, there's more, but it's more of a fun book than anything than the usual ones, the others. So more fun, different. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm surprised, actually. Well, a little bit. It's interesting that virtual reality hasn't taken off the way one would think it would, but many reasons for it. Brilliant. You got clients coming?
Yep, I do.
Good. Plural?
Yes.
Even better, because I did say clients and you did respond with affirmative, but I like to check. Very exciting. I'm always excited when you have clients coming. It's always something new ones or regulars.
I have regulars. The regulars.
So it's always new and different and exciting, opportunity for application. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
You have anything in particular that you'll be looking to practice today?
No, I kind of wait. No, not on purpose. I kind of wait to see what they're going through, and then sometimes I pick that intention out.
Brilliant. Beena, I think Beena had something to say quickly.
No, I was just feeling happy and excited about that because every single interaction with new people, even the older one, again meeting them again, you can see yourself. Okay, of course them also, but you see yourself like, okay, how much I have changed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's very exciting. I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
All right.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, and then Cheryl. All right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, have a good day. See you, B.
You too. Bye-bye, Sue. So cool. All right. So